News on Pan-African Television. This is your most authoritative news program coming to you live from our studios here at Abilimpi, number 48, Swanika Street. We are also streaming live on Facebook and across 46 neighboring countries via satellite. My name is Makiza Michelin Latifa. Coming up in the news bulletin this afternoon, and patients requiring laboratory tests at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital stranded as laboratory technicians embark on a week strike. Also coming up, government touts achievements in the road sector and says it intends to construct 11,000 kilometers of road by 2024. But the big question is, where are the roads? And a midwife at Ijumako Kwanyako Community Clinic appeals for support for 2-year-old boy with mentally challenged parent. We've got details of these and many more stories coming up shortly. Please do stay. Now let's do our very first story. And government says it intends to construct 11,000 kilometers of roads by the close of 2024. Road Minister gave the outline for the road sector for the year at a press briefing over the weekend.
We have programmed to do between 2021 and 2024 11,000 kilometers of road, out of which we are convinced and we are hopeful and we are confident that 6,000 would have seen total completion, and the remaining 4,000 would have been at different stages of completion, some of them substantial completion by 2024. This is the program for the road sector that has been put forward by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa's government. And let me remind you that between 2017 and 2020, we had done and completed 4,000 kilometers of road. If you come to bridges, we have programmed 200 bridges across the nation, and we have the statistics for each one of them. We have their age portfolio now, and during President Akufo-Addo's first term, as many as 9 interchanges took off simultaneously. 3-4 of them have gotten to substantial completion stage, and God willing, first week in July, His Excellency the President will officially commission the Pokwasi interchange. It would have been brought to a total full completion. And this is a project that got started from the scratch.
Well, the big question we're still asking is, where are the roads? But away from that story, the Electoral Commission of Ghana has set the path toward elections 2024 with some proposed electoral reforms. This has sparked some heated debate among stakeholders. The EC's proposals include closure of polls at 3 p.m. and an all-year-round registration exercise to avoid mass registration.
Has passed under the bridge, but it is important to point out, it is important at a point in time that we must come together as actors and stakeholders in Ghana's electoral processes to take stock of the processes, strategies and approaches we adopted in the 2020 elections highlights the areas that need to be strengthened and build consensus on the reform agenda for the Commission for the coming years. In this regard, we should collectively examine the challenges we faced in the electoral processes of 2020 and identify what did not work and why. This is important to gain insight and understanding of why certain targets were not achieved in the Constitution, and security is not one of our core minors. I use this occasion to clarify that the Electoral Commission is not responsible for election security. Although the entire electoral process and its success rests on the shoulders of the Commission, our mandate as entrenched in the Constitution does not include security. We do collaborate with our partners, our security agencies, in their quest to carry out their responsibility of ensuring peace, law and order at all centers throughout the country. We propose as a commission to close the polls at 3 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. In 2019, the commission announced its decision to close the polls at 3 p.m. rather than 5 p.m. in the 2020 election. Nonetheless, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic and the stringent and necessarily time-consuming safety protocols we instituted at our polling stations, we were compelled to put this proposal on hold. Over the past months, however, the proposal has resurfaced, and we believe that this is the time to discuss it and to reach some consensus on it. It was revealed that this is a workable proposal, as by 1 p.m. most polling stations were empty. Therefore, this is a reform we intend to discuss at this meeting today. Again, we propose to do away with the system of periodic nationwide registration exercises and institute an all-round system where citizens who turn 18 or persons who have not previously registered may visit any district's office in Ghana with their Ghana card or passport and register as voters. We propose a year-round exhibition system that will enable citizens check their registration details on their smartphones and other mobile devices. Citizens would not need to wait for an organized exhibition exercise to check their details. We want to build further efficiency into our collation process by focusing on data entry only at the constituency collation center. We need to be guided by the adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Now we have been joined on phone by Rhoda Osei-Afo, who is the team leader for elections at CODEO, for more insight into this very development. Hello, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us right here on Pan-African Television.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us right here on Pan-African Television.
My pleasure, yes.
Okay, so before I ask my question, I'd like to take you through, for the sake of our viewers, 4 of the reforms proposed by the Electoral Commission. First on the list says that there's going to be closure of polls at 3 p.m. in 2024 instead of the long-standing closure of polls at 5 p.m. Secondly, they are saying that there's going to be a substitution of periodic mass registration with continuous registration. And thirdly, they are going to introduce all year-round voter exhibition exercise through the use of technology. And finally, they are going to restrict data entry of election results to the constituency collation level and generate regional and national reports. From where you sit as an independent election observer at CODEO, what do you make of these proposed reforms by the Electoral Commission?
Well, thank you very much once again. So first of all, just to indicate that as far as CODEO is concerned, electoral reform is something that we continue to work towards, because we believe that even though we've made a lot of strides as a country and we've made improvements, significant improvements in our electoral processes, we still have to work to address existing challenges. And I think on the back of that, recently, CODIO, on its part, from a civil society point of view, even conducted a very similar exercise with stakeholders, and the Electoral Commission was part of the process. And we are happy that the Electoral Commission is also initiating its own processes in this regard. So reforms definitely are welcome. Now, specifically on the issues that the EC or the Commission proposed, and again, let me say that the Commission, so during the IPAC meeting last week, they came with these 4 proposals, but in the end, there were even other more proposals that were adopted. But specifically on these 4, I mean, if we have to look at each of them, if you look at the issue of continuous voter registration, definitely we know that the current system, the current arrangement where we have to periodically roll out a process to enroll everybody, which is the mass voter registration, is something that is not healthy. First of all, it has its cost implications. It's quite an expensive exercise. Secondly, you have issues about tension, security, acrimony, and all of that. Right. And then also the issue about minors, ineligible people who are not qualified who try to get onto the register. So for various reasons, the current system of getting voters on the roll is something that over the years we have raised issue with, and we also note that it's something that the laws, the current regulation on voter registration also recognizes, because it makes provision for continuous voter registration. So essentially the EC is saying that this is something that is already in the law, but we have to implement it. Already they tried to implement it in the past, and they couldn't sustain it. But now if they're coming back to that proposal, we think that it's quite good. But we have a few issues, which is that if you are doing continuous voter registration, there are other challenges that you have to look at, okay? Yeah. You have, as your system, your current technology, your system, the biometric verification, biometric registration system that you have, is it able to support the continuous registration that you want to do? And for the next several years, will your current equipment be able to support that? If not, and you are likely to have challenges, there can be other alternatives. And the national identification card is something, the Ghana card is something that CODIO at the recent workshop that we had was something that came out strongly, that if we already have an elaborate system of capturing data, capturing people, why can't we just resort to that? Of course, that doesn't come without any challenges, but just like you are going to have with continuous voter registration, there will be some challenges. But how can you work to address the issues that you may have relying on the NIA system, so that we can just fall on that and extract whatever information we have to be able to produce the voter registration? But I think the common understanding between what the Electoral Commission is saying and what CODIO will go in for is that doing mass voter registration is something that is not so sustainable. It's not the way forward for us as a country. The other issue about exhibition, doing an all-year-round exhibition, I think essentially the point, as I understood it from the engagement they had last week, was that yes, in every election year they may want to do the periodic exhibition that they do, but on a continuous basis they want to make it possible for anybody who wants to check whether their name is on the voter register to be able to check that at any point in time, whether we are in an electoral year or not. And I think that's also welcoming. And then the other 2 proposals, I think the other one relates to the closing time for polls. And then the last one relates to the collation. I will touch on the collation. Their point is that if they are able to capture data at the constituency level, and then the data is, they are able to aggregate it so that at the regional level and at the national level, we are not now going to be adding up numbers. So you have a system, you put a system in place where each constituency will be able to send their results in, and the system will be able to aggregate that. And then at the national level, they will just be viewing whatever they have without necessarily going through the process of adding 1+1, which sometimes creates some errors, as we saw in the last election. So I think, again, the bottom line is that there's issues with the collation process, and these are issues that CODIO also shares, that looking at what has been happening over the past few years, and 2020 in particular as well, the collation process is something that we have to look at again and see how best we can improve on that. So all in all, these proposals, I think they are welcoming, but of course, a lot will lie with the details and the arrangements that we put in place to make sure that their implementation really become smooth and will not present other challenges for the electoral process.
Okay, I mean, talking about restricting data entry of election results to the Constituency Coalition Center, some persons or some people are worried about the fact that it'll give an avenue for rigging and manipulation of results. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I am not so sure. I mean, anything is possible, but the point is that if you are having that, that is not to say you are eliminating the paper trail, okay? You are just trying to put in place a more efficient system of producing the data or getting the data that you need. But you always have your paper, the pin sheet, the result sheet as your backup, okay? But it should be possible. I don't see how that will, I mean, first of all, at the constituency level, there are party agents who are there and they are going through the figures as they are imputed. And then we know that the parties also have their own systems in place to check that these results are accurate. And then at the national level, if the results come in, you can just go in. I mean, if it's you think that for a particular region, the results that have come in are not consistent with what you have, you can do a constituency by constituency disaggregation and see where particular there's a problem, okay? But again, we also call on the Electoral Commission. They've done it in 2020, which was to release the results forms even on their website, so that even if people think that they can't trust what is coming through electronically, they still update. They have the result sheets on their website. People can check these figures for themselves. If they want to do their own manual tabulation, they can do that. But the Electoral Commission would be able to have an efficient way of getting the results. That's really the point about it.
Okay, so finally, let me ask you about the closure of polls, or moving the closure of polls from 5 p.m. to 3 p.m. Some people have classified this as a poorly thought through alternative, which is bound to disenfranchise eligible voters. What is CODEO saying about this whole, new proposal, especially on the closure of polls?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that at the CODEO retreat also, which looked at electoral reforms, one of the proposals that came from our stakeholders was to look at this issue of time. And at that workshop, the proposal was 4 p.m. to be considered, for 4 p.m. to be considered. I think whichever way you look at it, the most important thing is really how you implement whatever proposal you are going to make it. And I've said before that if you look at our neighbors, okay, in some countries, like Nigeria, they're able to close at 2 p.m. In South Africa, they are able to close at 9 p.m. Really, what is important is your mode of implementation, how you get to carry that out, because whichever you look at it, there are possibilities. And so if you're going in for 3 p.m., then of course you have to look at what problems it is likely to cause or to create and how you get to address that. When we looked at the issue of 4 p.m. at our workshop, for instance, the idea was that if polls in 2020, a lot of polling stations were able to close early because there were fewer numbers at polling stations, then is it still necessary for presiding officers to wait till 5 p.m. when maybe voters may have finished casting their ballots around 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Is it necessary for them to wait till 5 p.m. and some of them then to travel under the cover of darkness to make it to collation centers to be able to tender in their result sheets and all of that? So that's what you are looking at in terms of what issue you are addressing. But if the other issue is what challenges that presents, and I think the issue about people not having sufficient time, that can be done if you are looking at voter education. You educate, if people know that polls are closing at 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., of course, they will also make the effort to make sure that they are there on time to be able to cast their ballot. And of course, if people are there and, they haven't had the opportunity, the law always says that once you are in queue, you have to be given the opportunity. So even if you are in queue and it's going to take you up to 5 p.m., you have the right to vote. And that right will not be taken away from you. But of course, the other related issue that still can also be addressed in terms of pressure on collation centers and how you address that.
Okay. Thank you so much for making time to speak to us right here on Pan-African Television. We have been speaking on the EC's proposed reforms. We'll take a quick break. There's more news after next.
Oh, it's incredible! Bang on target!
Hello?
Oh, Sisiana sound.
Okay, what to make? Why? My wife comes and send a message you. Your face is going to hello? What's happened?
It's a chunk, but also be a quiet say what? I dare say,
besides, friend of fair, I'm so here too. My wife not testing messages here, and our office so I'm trying to tell you, she says, I
mean, so we a guy manu, and may young who could look cry, and also wants a family drilling company limited for Kana.
What's it then? Family Dwelling Company Limited.
Ye two borehole, biofuel, biogas, swimming pool, plumbing works in Naso, ye be, Frey 0240-333-111, and NASA 0244-144-822.
Miampa and we want swimming pool on me fee. We want to, we'll be here. Family Dwelling now. Family Dwelling.
What fast is your last set?
Me out with that shit.
And don't think I decided Truman capsules and so at their brand.
I think dinner was a good deal to me, dear Michi.
I will say, at the account now, your bear man, I wow.
Hey, Truman capsules. One mama ya bema bion.
Truman ye marime drew and mofra woni in fear doing what she into me no. Sa jedi en krato we FDA for shemu aja tum say she.
So much for staying. Let's do some more stories. And a public toilet is an unavoidable option for sanitation in most communities. For people at Fotobi in the Nsawam Adwejuri municipality, accessibility and utilization of decent toilet facility is a major issue of concern as the available structure has become a death trap. According to them, government should provide them with sanitary facilities to prevent open defecation and infectious diseases.
The pay-per-use public toilet serves an overwhelming number of inhabitants at Fotobi. Currently, the entire structure is full of cracks, shaky, unhygienic, without doors and hand-washing equipment. According to the traditional ruler of the community, Emranti Ehene Kwame Efum, 2 out of the 6 cubicles have already been blocked to save users from falling into the broken pits. He noted that after reporting the plight to the municipal assembly several times, the community was asked to raise its own funds to construct a new facility in order to attract support from the assembly.
Kuro kese da he nyina no. Baby ajawe ye nan yani. Baby ajawe ye nan yani. Obaja nan bia ne sonso ya. Ejanan bia na sei emu nyina papai nchen dan na kase mu apai bie ayehu pa menka na dawa embe adede ne kura no eye dankura asia tisia no yede proud abobo mienu a ho no obi hyen wo tisia asembesi jabobo mienu ni aka no kura no me no kasa tisia yi minum ni bitumi asi ba ye twa ho kwai sa ya kwa assembly ye twa ho kwan na sentem kurade ni kuhu opanyin no moye se anka yenso ye nkeka yensa ase nempe bi kakra no wo meboya yen na yenye bi ye yeso ye koto anwea begu ho koto anwea ne ade ye pe blocks na wo se won so de iron rods ne ade beboya yen but echi no ofre yen se wo behwe no wa bibuewie na no nti ni ayese ye be ye ne de wo ntumi mmoya yen nti yenjai.
While households have been able to put money together to purchase sand and other building materials for the project, the Assembly has asked them to halt the project and rather wait for a new one to be built by government in collaboration with a private benevolent organization. After waiting several months in vain, the chiefs and people of Fotobi are urgently calling on policymakers and generous hands to help them get access to suitable toilet facility.
Mesre woni die mu so mampanyi Akufo-Addo opeso besie funu wo kromu ade a eno yere no no behwe onhwe jana bia ye yusu wa ha emi yusu 3 emema nso yisi be se 4 enye easy kra be se nene 2 weeks me wo fase bi kikriki no koto we ka ne se achi wonu enye sika keto na me ne mabusu yen se wo no nti yesre mo ni die mu ye to abama ne se o mamba pa Ombesu Yesu nyina no ombe bepa yengenu amusu
na toilet ndu enye kura be bia kraki sisi ya toilet ne onu se nsu tokrampa nsu nu tokrampa egu toilet nu nti ama toilet ne bubu kura ya nhweni ya toilet ne beden edi asembeba because se ebi amframa bi boy ebetumi aba se disaster betumi esi ewo toilet nu nti de be se yehwe se aban bo mode no beden ombe hwe toilet n ema se ye bebu fufuru ama ne nja we na na ka best my.
When our news team followed up to the Assembly, Honorable Member Godfred Ayitete explained that he has sent series of requests to the Chief Executive and coordinators of Insawom, Adwejiri Municipality, but they keep assuring him with yet to be fulfilled promises. He also appealed to government to allow him to mobilize funds as well as labor from the community to complete the toilet, which has almost become a white elephant.
Amenities no near Tianeti. Mediato MCN, Aonim, Honorable Kojobuabing, Meno Casegra, Honor Yahweh, Meletes, a Gunenim Bebre. Coordinator woni na woni woni me say ni amike eyade amidi nananu ayefo kwa woni na wo yawe wo mayen kwan na facility na wo na keke krampon yen kwan yen fa yan sampa na yen se na me de communal liban me de ye bibia no what you say okay so wa development e ko so wa anya e obi na ye mami o sometimes nya me koye adwuma kakra na menya bia na ma fra me nkofo me se won mbra na ye mfa koye.
Those were some residents of Fotobi calling on the government to provide them with sanitary facilities to prevent open defecation. But away from that story, the mother of a 23-year-old lady suffering from acute flaccid paralysis is soliciting the support of the general public and philanthropists.
According to Madame Fosuwa, her daughter has been living with the condition for the past 18 years. She indicated that Christiana Chay's condition has deteriorated from bad to worse. Madame Fosuwa further disclosed that several attempts to get better treatment for Christiana at hospitals like Duan Nkwanta and Okonfo Anochi teaching hospitals have yielded no result as her condition keeps deteriorating. This, she said, has drained her financially, making life extremely difficult for them. Madame Abena Fosuwa is calling on the general public and philanthropists to come to Christiana Chay's aid. For more details, you can contact Pan African News on 0550 327548.
Still on some human interest stories, a midwife at the Ejumako Kwanyako Community Clinic is appealing for support for an adopted 2-year-old boy. The boy, whose biological father is mentally ill, according to the midwife, is going through challenges and has appealed to the general public for support.
The mentally sick parents who live in Ejumako Kwanyako in the Ejumako Enyan SCM district in the central region have for days now been taking their 2-year-old boy to the bush for hunting during the day and at night. The midwife, as a good Samaritan, went for the child and took care of his health, but finds it difficult taking care of his feeding and his accommodation. She is therefore pleading with the NGOs, individuals, and the government to come to their aid.
I'm afraid a catchment area. Na maame na adwumu akano na papa no nso adwumu akano na maame no efrimu America kreni tebusiafo no gya akola no edna ma papa ya sebe na adwumu akani ti papa no kuta akola no nso odo ewia abo odene namu okwa efuo mu a otimi de akola no kokochi nkusie ade akola no si dua asukwa be wanawa asema baba fa akola no otimi de akola no kwa anadwo kohwehwe nwa ade ni si ahaban mu akohwehwe nwa na obefa akola sisi anyame adom akola enwo ye isi obi ombeda edin bi ombedi papa nso akola ekuta no kra na adwen no se de medical aka no nti yesuo se biwe ya akola di nyina ya pacho nsa de yesa im Ghana man ombehwe ye ombra kwenya akona ombehwe akola ye obi abenye bi aketu bi ensa and now talk kenke makole or chanya mbeshira obi a bambenefo mo mu di juma ka krepi obi a obi ala ni amfa mo akole obi ni makole da achi eni say da mo ya ne da no mo beje ombra kunya akona mmehwe akole mai na se bibi edi mo so a edi di se nyame nhire biara wo mu no bi shira mo eda ma se mate na mbebo.
In an interview with Pan African News, Kofi Nsie, who is the father of the 2-year-old boy but mentally challenged, confirms that he always goes hunting with his son during the day and the night. According to Mr. Nsie, both his family and that of his wife have neglected them. Due to this, he is compelled to take the child along when going hunting, as they have no caretaker to live with him. Mr. Ntie is therefore appealing to the general public for support in order to take care of his son.
Na mi so afa mi bibiara mi yedwe bi ameye na makara me de hwe abofe mi so a madu amekọ na nkuseche na onye anadwonwa na me ko so a afa mi obiara mi din siwo na ohwe no duma na mekọ nti me kwa me da afa me de gwa mo me de ko mi kunyo kuse na me na si be nchen na ma kwachi mi kusi me chi mi afa ma abafa na kuse bi nchen so na so ma dom ma hwe bi the man pia baasa me play wa watch me play what bomb why am obafo na me be me play me be eco school am do be boko me yo biara obobom na me na for school na mara so you be dimpo akin adeni until me play what bomb na me da eco school.
The unit committee chairman, Mr. John Yamwa, also confirmed that they have been seeing Mr. Ntie going for hunting in the night and during the day with his 2-year-old boy.
Na mama trend ko midwife my bashe aye abrante Kofianti another of Alex Akwa ne situation na situation o sisi ara odofo ya ho na nimpa biara na part time biara so situation onye abofo no woma lafo ebese mu na mwa de nimpa biara o tema ye na ye tema ma Alex Akwa ne yera ino wawu ofim uko fi otim ebusofo apama oso onyan bofan da banti ankora wo ahoden wo mwa na Alex Akwa onyan mba ne dachi ntu mpi obi no bempo na hyehye enti yesrede muinara ma yamwa na kofenti na Alex Akwa ne abufano sibio wo yamwa no mfi na nhebe wo.
For further details, contact Pan African Television on the following phone number 0550 327 548.
A very sad story right there, but still on Pan-African News special report, a resident of Salifu in the Nkwanta South municipality of the Oti region, Mercy Sunkwa, is appealing for help from the general public to support her 2-year-old who is suffering from a severe health condition. According to her, the boy can neither talk, walk, nor consume solid food.
No ba kwa hu akwala no bisa mse de na ya akwala no na me so oyare nti omo take video omo twa na camera wa ha ye bibia eye me interview makasa omo so le yet sese na mo be eye me interview na me kasa e no so mo di kwa chire meti humbia eno ani be sinne meti humbia na yese me man so omo invite na se ya ha eni bonte bofo na eye wo nti na last name ote ha Tinkrofo na moji ya number bibia no moji call. Omo ye me interview, omo your papa interview. Na no moji call. Say oflam ewu. Onanga sa kwa no be de nende won ho san wo ma okotoleta na ojunso a na atom. Na sa we na de ne tambiara ene de eso. Ene sora, etime sora ne hanu mo se. Sora ne hanu mo se.
And that's all we have for you on the local front. Up next is business. Please do stay. Now, in the world of business, the Adbodbomefia of the Asogli State and co-founder of Sunon Asogli Power Ghana Limited, Todbi Afede, has led a 4-member investment and technical team to the Liberian capital, Monrovia, to negotiate a deal in the country's power generation sector. The deal will enable Liberia to be self-sufficient in energy and become a net exporter of power in the West African sub-region.
Briefing the media after the successful conduct of the negotiations, Togbe Apede the 14th disclosed that the deal was in 3 phases. According to him, the first of the 3-pronged offering seeks to acquire an interest in the existing 88 megawatts Mount Kafi hydropower plant in Liberia. The second aims at investing to expand the existing Mount Kafi hydropower plant to increase its output to about 168 megawatts, and the third is to develop a new hydropower plant on the St. Paul River to add to the generational capacity of Liberia. He also expressed optimism of the investment inuring to the benefit of consumers in Liberia. Other members of the delegation were Eliklim Kwabla Apitogbo, Rocky Ajimen Prempe, and Lee Julong.
Now let's take a look at the interbank CD performance against some of the major currencies. And the dollar is buying at 5.728 and selling at 5. all we have for you in the world of business. Up next is international from our international partners, the People's Dispatch. And on the international front, thousands of workers of McDonald's chain in 15 major cities across the United States participated in a one-day strike demanding wage hikes and union rights. On Wednesday, May 19th, workers organized in the Fight for 15 campaign strike action across the country, demanding that the minimum wages of workers at the McDonald's chain be hiked to $15 per hour and the right to unionize.
The one-day strike was held in major cities including Los Angeles, Oakland, San Francisco, Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Chicago, Detroit, Flint, Kansas City, St. Louis, Raleigh-Durham, Fayetteville, Houston, and Milwaukee. Fight for 15, founded in 2012 as a coalition of low-paying workers groups in the U.S., has been fighting for a $15 minimum wage and union recognition for retail and fast food workers ever since. The strike comes at a time when restaurants and fast food chains in the U.S. have been facing massive labor shortages. It was also held on the eve of the annual shareholders meeting on Thursday, May 20. In order to pressure the corporate chain, a demonstration was also held outside McDonald's headquarters in Chicago. Dozens were seen picketing outside. Striking workers received support from major public figures, including progressive members of the U.S. Congress like Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, and even celebrities like Susan Sarandon. If McDonald's can afford to pay its CEO over $10 million in compensation and spend billions on stock buybacks to award its wealthy shareholders and executives, you know what? It can afford to pay all of its workers at least $15 an hour. I am proud to support the workers on strike, said Bernie Sanders. McDonald's reported a major increase in sales and turnout in the first quarter of 2021. The company promised a wage hike plan to be rolled out over the next few months. It claimed that the plan will help around 36,500 of the more than 200,000 people employed in McDonald's outlets and franchises. The stated plan claims to eventually raise wages for entry-level workers between $11 to $17 per hour, and shift managers are expected to receive $15 to $20 per hour. But Fight for 15 has rejected the plan as a PR stunt. The campaign pointed out that it will only lead to a rise in $15 per hour by 2024, and only for workers in around 650 out of 14,000 total corporate outlets of McDonald's in the country. The reality is McDonald's giving shareholders billions while ignoring workers who deserve $15, said the Fight for 15 in a press release published on the eve of a strike. McDonald's thought they could get some good headlines last week by saying they would pay a fraction of workers, those at just 650 stores out of nearly 14,000, a few dollars more. It's too little for too few. McDonald's has constantly passed the responsibility of paying workers low wages to government regulations, claiming that it abides by local, state, and federal laws. Fight for 15 and other labor movements organizing low-income workers have argued that companies do not have to wait for new laws to start paying workers fair wages. An average McDonald's employee earns about $7.25 per hour. Workers' groups have blamed low wages for the labor shortages various retail and fast food chains, which apart from McDonald's include others like Walmart, 7-Eleven and Wendy's, are reporting. While companies are trying hard to incentivize applications with money and other freebies, they have refused to offer better wages as a way out of the shortage.
And that's all we have for you on the international front. Credit goes to our international partners, the People's Dispatch. Up next is sports. Do stay. And in sports, the match day 26 of the 2020-2021 Ghana Premier League season ended at the various league centers with some intriguing results. Legon Cities gave their relegation fight a boost with a 2-0 win over Aduana Stars at the Accra Sports Stadium on Sunday, as goal from Abdul Manaf ensured Great Olympics returned to winning ways against Inter-Allies.
The Royals had an early opportunity to take the lead, but striker Jonah Atukwe saw his effort go wide. In the 13th minute, he made amends for his earlier miss with the opening goal for the host, thanks to a brilliant assist from Matthew Enim Kujo. He could have registered a quick brace in the first half, but his header on a Richmond entry cross from the right side was too feeble to beat goalkeeper Masaudu Inusa. Legon Cities were unlucky to have doubled their lead in the 34th minute when Entry's connection from 12 yards came off the side post. In the second half, it was a seesaw contest with both sides making dangerous moves and Legon Cities hitting the woodwork. Baba Mahama was picked out neatly by an Atukwe squared pass and his connection smashed the woodwork. They were awarded a penalty after Entry's shot at goal was adjudged to have come off the hand of Prefo. Defender Joseph Ejay converted a spot kick expertly, with goalkeeper Inusa left flat-footed. Great Olympics needed to win the game to keep their chase on the Ghana Premier League title after losing to Ashanti Gold last weekend. Inter-Allies, after a resounding victory against Brekum Chelsea on March Day 25, were seeking to win again as they continued their fight against relegation. The first half ended scoreless with both sides coming close to breaking the deadlock. Inter-Allies nearly scored just after recess, but Nafiu Sulemana's effort could not trouble the goalkeeper. Abdul Manaf Mudasiru scored in the 27th minute to break the deadlock for Great Olympics. The home side held on to the lead to pick all 3 points in the game. The Wonder Club have moved up to third position on the league table with 43 points after the victory. Inter-Allies have been condemned to the bottom on the league table after the loss.
Well, to some other sports stories, Josh Taylor outboxed Jose Ramirez to become the 6th undisputed 4-belt boxing champion. The Scotsman scored 2 knockdowns en route to securing a unanimous decision victory.
In one of the rarest fights in boxing, an undisputed title fight featuring 2 unbeaten boxers in their prime, Taylor was the one who made history. Behind the strength of 2 knockdowns, he picked up 112 unanimous decision on the judges' scorecards. He becomes the 6th male boxer in the 4-division era since 1988 to become an undisputed champion and the first Scottish to accomplish the feat. Most of the limited capacity, sold-out crowd inside the theater at Virgin's Hotels Las Vegas cheered for Ramirez. They cheered early and chanted his name as he connected early in the fight. But once Taylor took control in the middle rounds, it was the small Scottish contingent that was loudest. In the 6th, the southpaw dropped Ramirez with his short left counterpunch. Ramirez recovered well enough to keep Taylor at bay for the rest of the round, but that wasn't the case in the 7th. As the two were exiting a clinch, Taylor landed the lead left uppercut that sent Ramirez to the canvas. He wobbled as he made to his feet before referee Kenny Bayless could finish the count. With a little more than 10 seconds left in the round, Taylor didn't have time to push for the stoppage. It turns out he didn't need it, even though Ramirez steadied himself and even won a few rounds in the latter half of the fight. The Scotsman did a good job of staying at range, not allowing Ramirez to catch him with a big power shot and picking his own opportunities to strike. Taylor's blueprint in the ring mirrored what it was like during fight week. Taylor jawed with Ramirez during Thursday's face-off and even at Friday's weigh-in. He also sparked a scuffle with Ramirez that forced both men to be separated. His trainer Ben Davison's game plan worked perfectly, especially as Ramirez tried to push the tempo in the later rounds. Taylor circled Ramirez and boxed his way to the victory that yielded a well-deserved celebration. Before the fight, Top Rank founder and chief executive officer Bob Arum said Taylor could move up to welterweight to face Terence Bud Crawford, who also was previously the undisputed champion in the 140-pound division.
And that's all we have for sports. Up next is Entertainment Tuesday. And Ghana, labeled as a bird watcher's paradise, heritage lovers' passion, an eco-tourism haven, and adventurous dream, is also home to numerous architectural masterpieces and unique tourist sites. On our showbiz segment today, we'll take a look at the Independence Square.
Tete Mensah, who led the famed and iconic Temples Band, was born at Accra on May 31, 1919. His early education took place at the Government School Accra and later at Accra High School. At the age of 12, he learned to play flute in the Government School Band, and in 1932, he began playing piccolo and flute in the Accra Orchestra, a school children's band. The leader of the Accra Orchestra at the time was a teacher, Joe Lamptey, who gathered talented young people together to form a band.
The Independence Square, sited in Accra, is the second largest city square in the world, after the Tiananmen Square in Beijing, China. The vast area, built under Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in 1961, is designed for huge events and military marches. But it is usually empty except for a few soldiers sheltering from the sun. It contains monuments to Ghana's independence struggle, including the Independence Arch, Black Star Gate, and the Liberation Day Monument. The facility, which is bordered by the Accra Sports Stadium and the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, is also a site for Ghana's Independence Day Parade, which falls on March 6th every year. The Independence Square stands can seat 30,000 people. A statue of a soldier facing the Independence Arch symbolizes the Ghanaians who lost their lives fighting for the country's independence. On March 24, 1998, people gathered at the square to welcome former United States President Bill Clinton and his wife Hillary Clinton on their historic visit to Ghana. The state funerals of late former presidents John Evans Fifi at Mills, Jerry John Rawlings, and late former Vice President Alhaji Aliu Mahama were also held at the venue.
Well, we apologize for the wrong footage, but we want our viewers to know that our initial communique of a free health screening has been postponed. We will definitely communicate a new date to our viewers. And that's all we have for you on the news bulletin this afternoon. Before I leave, let's do a recap of the headlines. And patients requiring laboratory tests at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital stranded as laboratory technicians embark on a one-week strike. And also, government touts achievements in the road sector and says it intends to construct 11,000-kilometer road by 2024. We ask that where are the roads? And also, midwife at Ijumako Penyako community appeals for support for 2-year-old boy with mental challenge. Well, we want to say thank you for spending your afternoon with us right here on Pan African News. My name is Makiza Michelin Latifa.